Welcome to Pierce Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 158.
158. Yeah, here we go. It's going to be awesome. We're talking about everybody's favorite subject, summer slowdown.
Yeah. Well,
Just trying to put a positive.
And it's kind of tough because it's nice outside. Like I'm looking at the little bit of outside that we can see from the studio on the bottom there. And it looks pretty nice. Right. And I don't know if I want to list.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to pack items.
Yeah, go to the beach and, lay out in the sun, go surfing.
Do you surf?
No, I've gone twice. The first time I got stung by a stingray, and the second time I sprained my ankle. Everybody says, how do you sprain your ankle surfing? Well, I was walking in and I jumped off the board or whatever right in the shallow, and I landed on something weird. And so, yeah, I don't surf. Plus, I have to put sunscreen on my head because I'm bald, and then the sunscreen goes down into my eyes and it burns the whole time, and I can't even see the waves come, and I just feel like I'm getting pummeled, and it's just not my thing.
I like boogie boarding. Surfing, I'm a larger dude, so that it takes a lot to get up on that board. So
I can wakeboard.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. But it does relate. I started that conversation. But what I wanted to talk about is summer slowdown a myth? Like, is it real? Like, this is summer my third summer of being full time. Like because I started full time like right around now. Right. And so that summer, I had the nice Toys R Us liquidation, which made things a piece of cake. Then last year, it was like right before eBay opened. And I remember like, summer slowdown. Like, this was before we had like, the current situation we're in our world right now. Like, it's sad to say that like a year ago things were normal, but it was normal. Like we were worried about summer slowdown, not because of a pandemic, not because of unrest in our country. It was more like maybe people don't want to buy stuff in the summer.
Yeah, and kind of just to I don't know if I want to say to preface this, but in reality, in the retail world, I tried to do a little bit of research on this. Spring and summer times do tend to be the slowest times compared to other times of the year for purchases, right? Now, there's conflicting reports, but it seems like in a lot of ways that the online retail space has kind of mitigated that to an extent, because before people, they want to be outside. They want to go to parks. They want to go to the beach. They want to go hiking. They want to do these things spring, summertime. They're not cooped up inside. They're not, going out shopping as their only form of entertainment or to kill time. But now with cell phones, everybody's got a cell phone on them. You can be at the beach and buying stuff, on Amazon. And so it does seem to be that there is even in the retail space, a dip during spring and summer times as far as just overall sales, like Q1, Q2, especially the last part of Q1, because you're kind of coming off of Christmas time and all of that. But I would say, like as a whole, we might say there might be a dip in sales. But then again, it comes down to, it depends, right? Like it really depends on what you're doing and what's going on.
Yeah. And the reason I say is it's a myth, is it something that maybe we self-impose, right? Like, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then I wanted to talk about, all right, here's what not to do. Like if you don't want things to slow down, these are the things you probably shouldn't do. And then I wanted to finish with, here's what you should do, right? And a lot of the things are kind of the same old, right? You just keep listening, sourcing. But there's a little bit more that you can do to kind of, stop if that summer slowdown happens. So here's my question. I put, is summer slowdown a myth? And the first point I put, it depends, right? My question to you is, Mike, or to anybody is like, hey, when you say summer slowdown is real, well, what are your plans for the summer? Right? Because that has a lot to do with it. Because I've had a lot of resellers go, things are, actually somebody just contacted me and said, things are pretty slow in the summer. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I haven't experienced that the last 2 years. And they're like, yeah, but I travel a lot. Right. And so that's important to know, that I think we all ourselves go into a kind of, I don't know, maybe subconsciously we don't realize it, but I don't know if we work as hard in the summer. I don't know. Am I off on that?
That could be part of it. Heat does a lot of weird things to people, right? So we're
getting scientific too.
Even with like eating, right? People tend to, in a lot of ways, everybody's going to be different. So you could say like, well, not me, but in general, people tend to eat less when it's really, really hot outside, right? When it's cooler, people eat more, right? And so there's going to be,
That true?
physiological, there's going to be physiological aspects. Now, if you're inside in air conditioning all day, it's not going to matter what, temperature is. But if you've got an outside job, you're working in the heat, people tend to eat less and drink more water, right? And water ends up being filling and they just don't have as much of an appetite. So there's a lot of physiological things that could be part of it. Again, some of it's going to be like just socially, right? What's going on. So either you as a seller or you as a buyer, the buyers might not be buying as much, sellers might not be pushing as hard. But one of the things I wanted to kind of push is to have a perspective of your business in the same way that big businesses do, right? So when you're thinking about companies like Target, Walmart, these companies recognize, and they're thinking in yearly budgets or yearly, growth. And that's why, like, when quarter, reports come out, whether you're, buying stocks and they have to show their earnings per share, all of those things. A lot of times those earnings per share come out, and even if you look at a company, oftentimes it's like Q2, Q3, or sometimes Q1, Q2, depending on the type of company it is, especially in the retail market, tends to be a lot lower than like Q3, Q4. And again, that can kind of depend on what markets different companies sell, but that's just generally the rule. And a lot of companies, they don't come out of the red as far as like, okay, they're losing money. Sometimes, quarter one, quarter two, but investors are thinking, okay, what's the long term here? What's going to be the earnings after Q4? Like, that's kind of what they're looking for. How much money has the company made in the year? And so if you can make that shift in your mind and say, okay, there might be times, because if you're comparing almost any month to like December, every month is going to seem slow, right? Like, if that's what you're comparing it to. But if you don't necessarily make that comparison and you think of a year and you think year over year, then you can kind of determine, okay, was this a slow year or a good year? Or you can look at previous years, like, okay, July for me over the last 3 years has looked like this. So maybe this was a slower July compared to, you got to compare apples to apples, the previous July. Or you could say, hey, I did better this July, but I also had 30% more inventory, but I only had 10% more sales, right? So that still could, just looking at those numbers, say, hey, this was maybe not as much of a growth in July as I was expecting. So you can only compare apples to apples there. And so trying to compare December, trying to compare Christmas time to the middle of summer isn't going to be, it's not a healthy way of thinking about it, because you can get very discouraged. But you got to think like a big company and say like, okay, but I'm budgeting for a year. I'm working in a year frame. And then you can compare month to that same month in a previous year, but not to some other month in the year.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think there's the other caveat of right now this is a unique scenario that we're in right now. And there's a lot of people saying that the best sales we're going to have this year before Q4 are going to end up being March and April, which they were good months. I mean, they were better than Q4 in many aspects. But I don't know. I anticipate this still happening. And here's why. A lot of retail spaces aren't open, right? Like, I'm selling a lot of retail arbitrage right now. I'm selling a lot of sandals. I'm selling a lot of stuff that you could just go to a local, Ross or TJ Maxx or wherever, but those stores aren't open, right? Even in California, even where we're at, I know of one TJ Maxx and like one Ross that's open nearby. And I don't know of any Marshalls. Now, I need to get out there more, and I'm a reseller, right? So I'm out there more than the average person, right? So you got to think about that. Maybe this summer it's time to push in even more, knowing that maybe it's not that it's a myth, but in this scenario, it's not going to happen because there's still going to be a lot more people. And like you said, maybe those habits that developed during the pandemic are now just going to be part of the way it is, even more so. They already were happening, but they're happening on a grander scale. And the other thing, you got to be just self-reflective. Like, if things are slow, just think about what you were doing like last June. Was it slow because you were putting in the same amount of work you're doing all year? Or was it slow because, hey, you had this family vacation that you took, and hey, this one day, instead of listing, you decided to go to the beach? Or, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's just slow because you slow down yourself. And maybe you don't notice that because, for whatever reason, you thought you're doing things the same. But if you really took a retrospective look at what you're doing, you recognize that you were slowing down. Yeah,
that's good. But I would say the counter argument to that, and I think you're absolutely right to say that. I think in some ways, like maybe we were guilty of this last year. We said things like, hey, summer slowdown didn't slow down, but like, I listed way more items and I was working. And so if you have to work harder to make the same as you were making, in another time of the year, we could say, okay, there's definitely a summer slowdown, but you don't have to be impacted by it as significantly if you're willing to say like, okay, there's a slowdown, but how do I mitigate that? How do I reduce the impact of slowdown? Well, remove the variables you can, right? Like don't slow down if you don't want it to slow down. And maybe you do have to work harder. So there is a slowdown, or there potentially could be a slowdown, but what are the things you could do to get over that? And so, yeah, looking at what are you doing, and then look at, what are the things you can do on top of that? Yeah.
And the other part, so the next step I want to talk about was like, what are you selling? Are you still trying to sell the same stuff? Now, I will say right now, the e-commerce market, like you can sell anything right now. I mean, I haven't seen a slowdown.
Yeah, pet rocks are like flying off the shelf.
Well, I don't know. But right, I would say, I don't know, maybe it's different for you, but I'm still selling all kinds of randomness, right? I mean, we're getting to the middle of June, and I'm still selling jackets. I'm still selling shoes. I'm still selling puzzles. I'm still selling, I mean, you name it. Let me look at my last previous solds, and it's all kinds of randomness that is selling. I mean, I look right now, I just sold a plaid shirt. I sold the belt buckle. I'm selling workout apparel, a lot of workout apparel. I'm selling handheld radios, a Lego set, sandals, a buckle, Disney figurines, a dress. I mean, it's like, it's all over the place. So, maybe this summer you can say, you know what, maybe slowdown isn't going to happen, and I'm going to just put in the same work, because what if now is the time to capitalize? Because, reselling, there is times of feast and famine. I don't know if there's a lot of famine, but there's a lot of times where things don't move as fast as you want them to move, right? And maybe now you may be noticing a kind of slowing trend, because during the pandemic, when it was really hitting, you were all about getting that MF, like getting puzzles, getting board games, getting, grocery items. And now that other parts of the country are opening up, they're slowing down. So you got to ask yourself, like, am I selling stuff that people are looking for in the summertime? Right. And one of the easiest ways to do that, now it's not 100% foolproof, we'll talk about this later, is by doing the research and seeing, okay, what do people buy in June? What do they buy in July? And what do they buy in August?
Yeah. And there is a place to say maybe your model is, I don't know, books. Maybe your model is specifically like all you sell, like what you're really interested in selling is college books. And so you're going to have a huge spike during the fall. That's when you're making most of your money. Then maybe again during winter semester. And then the rest of the year, you're not making money, but maybe that's like you make enough money then that it's worth it for you. But if you want to consider yourself to be like a store, yeah, look again at any big store. Look at Target, look at Walmart. These stores, Macy's, all of these stores, they change the inventory they have to match the season. Right. They have whole sections that are seasonal, right? So they've got, at Target, you got, maybe things coming out now that's like outdoor and cooking and, barbecue and pool, that stuff comes out. And then at another time, it's like, oh, here comes all the Easter stuff. And and they have whole sections of the store that's for what's going on right now. Now, we might not think of that as like pivoting because that's the store's model. But if you think about it at a more micro scale with you and your store, why can't you be like that? Why can't you have a seasonal section? Why can't you kind of alternate your model just a little bit if that's what you want to do and be able to capitalize on all those times? And summer is going to be one of those times. There are going to be certain things that are going to be selling. If you're really, really into selling, jackets or whatever, this might not be the time for you, but maybe you can find something else that does well now.
Well, and the thing you got to think about is usually retailers are like a season ahead, right? So you got to think about that. Like, if all you may be selling winter stuff right now, or you may be selling summer stuff. I mean, I personally believe both sell year round, right? But there's a different market. Like, I sell a lot of winter stuff in the summer, but usually that stuff is going to, let's say, Australia or other parts of the world that are experiencing winter. But in the summer, man, like for instance, one brand that sells really hot for me in the summer is Birkenstocks, right? So if you don't have, if you have the ability to source Birkenstock, and usually you don't during the winter time because they don't sell well for you, now is the time. So you have to really look at what you're selling. The other thing is your model. Like, what's your model look like? Like, if you're a long tail kind of person and you're trying to weather it through a slow time, like that's going to make it worse, right? It may be time to adapt. Maybe it's time to switch up your model to fast nickel. And I've said this before, like especially right now during the pandemic, it was a time of uncertainty. I went to fast nickel, and in the end, it worked out. right? Because a lot of the low end stuff, I was okay moving fast. And maybe that's what it takes. Maybe it takes you now saying, hey, I've always been about buying high end vintage stuff, or maybe I've been about, certain inventory that gives me an ASP of $25 or more. But now you have to go like, maybe I need to bring in some inventory that's lower ASP. Maybe it's only $10. Maybe it's only $15. And it may be annoying. So just maybe turn off the best offer. Maybe make it buy it now. Change your model. You have to adapt. I mean, the resellers I know that really do well, they adapt when they need to adapt, right? I mean, we've known many that during the pandemic, they were very big on, their team no death pile, like all the time, right? And Mike and I we're not team death pile, but indirectly we have death piles. Like we didn't plan on it. It wasn't like we're like, yes, we're going to buy all this. So it just sits in the corner in case a pandemic happens. But a lot of the sellers that made it through that and actually are far better now than they were before were teams that said, you know what? Okay, right now I'm going to switch up. I'm going to do a different platform. I'm going to fast nickel. And I'm going to make sure that, I find items that I can sell consistently every day instead of finding those unique one-offs. So it all depends on the model that you have.
Yeah. And even within whatever model you run, there's different elements of your job, right? If you're a reseller, part of your job is sourcing, part of your job is inventory, part of your job is shipping, right? Like all of those things, networking, all of those things are things that are part of what you do. So there are going to be seasons where you maybe say like, okay, maybe the shipping portion of my business is a little slower right now, but can I spend this time, the same amount of hours per week, increasing my inventory and working on the systems that I have in place and maybe doing some bookkeeping. And so you can switch and still be productive in a time where maybe you don't have as much money coming in, but then that might open up the opportunities for, hey, now we're moving into a season where I'm not able to source as easily. Maybe summertime is easier to source because there's garage sales. Maybe you've got extra time off. Maybe you're on vacation and you're traveling and you're in a place where you can pick up some really unique items. So maybe you look at it as, here's the time that I am sourcing. And because again, if you're thinking like macro, micro levels, like if you can kind of step out of the, what's going on right now and think about it like a day, like in a day, you don't spend the whole day shipping items that have sold, right? Some of the day you're spending sourcing. And if you think of a year as like just an extended day, there's going to be times or seasons during that where what you're focusing on is different. And the total amount of money you make by the end of the year could be better or worse depending on how you spend that time. So I'm not saying that you have to just accept the fact you're going to make less money, because obviously we're going to talk about things you can do, maybe work harder, maybe pivot, all of these things that can make more money. But even if you're willing to say, you know what, I'm okay with the fact that maybe the niche that I'm in just doesn't do quite as well, whatever season is. Maybe it's summer for you, maybe it's winter for you, whatever that season is. But during this time, I'm going to get my bookkeeping done so I don't have to worry about it in April. I'm going to get all of my inventory organized, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to source a ton. So when that season hits where I'm selling like hotcakes, I've got all my systems in place. So you can still be productive even if it's not quote unquote profitable in the moment.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, you got to look at the model. You got to figure out what works for you, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with unplugging and just spending time with family and going, hey, historically retail is slow and I'm okay. I have enough saved up and I'm just going to spend time with family. That's good too. I mean, I'm going to be traveling this summer. I'm going to work my tail off in between those, and I'm going to be doing some sourcing while I travel, but I'm going to, I am going to take those times where I'm going to spend time with my boys and choose not to focus on reselling. Now, let's talk about some things what not to do.
Yeah. Don't do these things.
There's a lot of not to do. First one is don't follow the trend. And what I mean by that is, this is what's happened. There's all these posts that'll happen. And maybe what happened this time around, maybe because, this e-commerce is still fire, like you won't see them, but a lot of people are like, oh, it's summer slowdown. Just expect it. This is the way it's going to be. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, you don't have to choose mediocrity. Like, you don't have to say, hey, you know what? I guess that's the way it's going to be, and just throw up the towel and then be done with it. Because there are so many. I mean, we don't have Prime Day this summer, but we do have that summer sale day coming up in a couple weeks or in a week or so. And then on top of that, there are still categories that people are buying stuff all the time, right? It's an idea of like, hey, don't follow the trend. And also, that goes along with like, don't compare yourself to others, because I could see that being super discouraging. during the time of summer slowdown. Now, I do think it helps to be on social media and see what other people are doing during the summer, right? And I'm not saying comparing. I'm not saying try to be like them. But it doesn't hurt to go like, okay, how is this person being successful? But again, I say this all the time. Those bar graphs, you have to understand, somebody can say they pulled in 30K in 90 days or 60K or 100K. Man, that total means all their sales plus the shipping that was paid plus the fees. It means everything. So you really don't have a perspective to go like, hey, I want to be like that. But it doesn't help to learn.
Yeah, and there's two traps you fall in on social media or just in general in life. And the one is to follow the negative train, right? Like Orlando was talking about earlier, you can get discouraged. You could say like, hey, nobody's doing well. And then it becomes an excuse for you, right? Like nobody's doing well right now. And so I'm not going to try as hard. Now, again, it might be, the time where you say, I'm not going to get as much return per hour of time I'm spending, so I can be more productive in another area or another way. But you don't have to follow the negative train of because again, it becomes an excuse. I feel like a lot of people, as soon as they have an opportunity, it's just human nature. As soon as it's like the reason why we didn't do well is because of X, Y, and Z, or something's going on, and you can kind of jump on board with that and say, yep, that's the reason I'm not doing well, and it becomes an excuse for you to maybe not try as hard. The other aspect, like Orlando is saying, is becoming so focused on somebody else that you can become discouraged in that way of like, hey, everybody else is doing really well and I'm not, right? Or somebody else is making a bunch of money. And so you don't want to follow into either of those ditches, right? Like there's not a good side of the horse to fall off on here. You want to stay on the horse. So instead, you can look at the people who are doing really well and say, what are the things I can learn from them? If they're actually doing as well as they're doing, and use that as like some encouragement. If somebody can do well, I can do well. And look at the people who are being negative and say, all right, what can I learn from them? What are the things that they're doing wrong? What are the things that I can maybe say, hey, they're not doing well, but they haven't pivoted, or they're not, doesn't seem like they're putting as much time into sourcing as they were before, right? So you can learn from both aspects, but don't fall off the horse, right? There's no good side of the ditch to fall into here. Try and stay in the middle and learn from both. And again, that's the hard part with something like social media, is it pulls you to extremes. But if you can master that, if you can get to the place where you could say, I'm going to master, even going back to our book Level Up review, where we talked about, mastering your emotions, or you not letting your emotions control you, but using your emotions, right, to control the situation. So look at those extremes and find a way to make it productive for you.
No, I 100% agree. I just, I can go on a long rant, but I will say of all the last 2 years, I kept waiting for summer slowdown. I kept going, it's going to happen, and again, I've already seen it like these last 2 months. People were like, yeah, things are hot, but be ready for summer slowdown. I'm like, no, I personally would like to absolve that, like remove it, expunge it from our vocabulary, because I really, and maybe I'm off, and I know when I mentioned this to Mike the other day, he kind of gave me this look. I really think it's a myth that it not I don't know, maybe myth isn't the right word.
Yeah, I mean, not compared to what the numbers show. I mean, again, it's a little bit different with the retail world. Like the numbers or online look a little different than retail.
And you can't beat data. Data is data.
Yeah, but in general, the data does show that it's I don't know, like it looks like there is a slowdown during this phase in most industries. So like usually when you're looking at statistics, it's like all industries combined together. Now you can break it up into narrower and narrower and narrower categories, and maybe things look different, and that's where it's challenging. But when you aggregate all of that together, it's hard to say it's completely a myth, because there is reality to that. But at the same time, you can say, hey, how can I use this to my advantage? Again, maybe it's changing your market a little bit. Maybe it's changing what you're doing, or maybe it's saying, look, I'm going to save in Q4 to pay for summertime, that time that I need here. And I'm going to use this as a time to clear out some inventory and source like crazy. So that way when next Q4 comes, I can focus on selling and not so much like I don't have as much time for sourcing, but I've sourced so much that it'll carry me through, right? So you can change your models and you can kind of look at what's going to work for you. Now, going back to what you're saying, do you have to accept that you're going to make less? Not necessarily, but you might have to recognize, I might have to work harder to get the same amount.
Yeah, I mean, you may have to make extreme calls. Like for instance, last year, I knew that, I had people saying it. So Office Depot is liquidating, and I hit those stores hard. I hit 3 Office Depots in California that were closing out in April, right before. I remember even going to one right before eBay upfront, and then hitting a couple others. And then I flew to Wisconsin in the Midwest, and I knew Shopko was liquidating. So I actually went and I sourced a bunch of Shopkos, and I sent them all in to FBA, and all that hard work. The sales started kicking in the June and July, and it carried me. There was no summer slowdown. It was a great month, but I did have to take some drastic measures to make that happen, right? And I'm doing that now. Like right now, while you're listening to this podcast, I'm somewhere in the Midwest trying to make it happen with retail arbitrage, because I can't do retail arbitrage back at home because our stores aren't open. Here where I'm at in the Midwest, a lot of the stores are open, and I have those opportunities. Now, hopefully I have a good report in our update episode that, it worked out and it was okay. So
stay tuned. Make sure to hit the notification buttons on YouTube so you know when that update episode drops.
There you go. So what I'm saying is, don't keep doing the same thing, right? Like what was working during the pandemic may not even work in July. Like I think of weights right now. Like weights are still hot even now. Like I talked to you about that kettlebell that sold in 24 hours, which was nothing, but it was an experiment. I actually bought another weight plate the other day and wanted to see, and it hasn't sold. So, things are slowing down.
A weight plate?
A weight plate.
Yeah, you're going to have a hard time with
No,
that.
those things sell too.
If you
at the peak. Right now it's on the other side.
What I'm saying though is if you have a pair.
Oh, if I had a pair, it'd be done.
Yeah.
It'd be over.
Having a single plate is very difficult.
I know,
to sell.
but it's going to sell.
That's like having a shoe.
Is it that?
Yeah. Yep. Nope.
No, but what if you do? There's certain workouts you can do with a plate.
Not many. Most of them go on a bar or a dumbbell.
I know. Okay, but maybe somebody has a plate that they're missing.
It would have to be the exact same brand.
Yeah,
if
I
you're
know.
hoping to have.
Trust me, I know. I ran through this whole. But the reason I picked it up was I wanted to experiment. Like, so I haven't posted on Instagram, but I put it on Instagram. So when it sells, I want to make a story about it. Like, hey, here's evidence that like it's still hot. Because
is it a standard weight or an Olympic weight?
I'll have to talk to you after the podcast. I don't know, man. All I know is like plastic covered. It said 25 pounds and
1 inch hole or 2 inch hole?
I think it was a 1 inch.
Okay. Standard.
So is that not good?
I mean, it depends. I mean,
it was $7.
That's not bad.
So that's why I picked it up. I mean, I passed on the $10 one. That was by itself. I know who's going to use a a 10 pound one by itself. What do you do with that?
I don't know. Maybe you put it in your backpack and go on a hike.
There you go. See,
add a little bit of weight.
And what I'm saying is, here's my other fear. Not for myself, but for a lot of new sellers. So a lot of you capitalize on the weights. A lot. I mean, there are people that were making thousands of dollars. I mean, and fast, and it was easy, and it wasn't that tough, right? It wasn't that hard. But now that the country reopens, and actually in California, I think like in a week or so, we're supposed to be opening up gyms again. So now there's going to be a certain part of the population that isn't going to feel safe going to gyms, right? But it's not going to be the same anymore. So you can't do the same thing this summer. Like you got to figure something out, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that right now, and somebody on Instagram posted something like, hey, you may be doing right now. And honestly, during the pandemic, like if you're new, you pretty much could sell anything. You would be like, man, reselling's easy. The grind's going to come down when those hot items are no longer hot, and you got to either find the next hot item or you got to find consistent bread and butter sales that'll carry you through, even through the summer. So, all right. So that's not to do. All right. Don't follow the trends. Don't compare yourself to others.
Don't do it.
And don't keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But now it's time for the upside. But before we get to the upside of the next part of things, and before I accept this very low ball offer, and guess what it is? The summer slowdown. Look, it's a pair of $15 sandals, which I'm going to probably not make any money on. But why am I accepting it? To trigger that algorithm.
Yeah. He believes in the magic of the algorithm.
I do. Watch. Before this episode ends, I'll have another sale. And if I don't, well,
but again, that you can't argue the counterfactual there. Who knows whether you would have got that sale, whether or not you accepted the offer.
You know what?
It's not a controlled study.
Don't take this away from me.
It's not real science.
And look, they paid right away, but how could you not pay? That was like nothing. So, all right. So before we get moving, if you're not following us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter. Also, if you're listening to the podcast and you love to see our microphones and our setup, you can watch us on YouTube at Pure Hustle Podcast. Hit that subscribe and the notification so you know when videos drop. I think we have some things. I know we have some things planned for this summer, which will not be able to be on the podcast. So make sure to hit that bell notification so you're notified. Bing. You could always give us a call at 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. Or shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. Hey, thank you to all of you that continue to support us, whether it's monetarily through donations or whether it's through buying our shirts or through just tuning in. And the most important one is by writing us a review. So I thought I would read our latest review.
Let's do it.
I like reading these. Is this like... are we being braggadocious when we do this?
That's all right.
No, I appreciate it.
We're being thankful for, we're not reading something we wrote. We're reading something somebody else wrote. I didn't say.
Look at this guy. This is from Zamejdev.
You shouldn't even try. If it's that bad.
Look, payment received. Please ship now. Okay.
For the sandals.
No.
For something else. Yeah, but then again, you don't know if that thing would have sold whether or not you accepted the sandals.
Look. Wait.
It's for the sandals.
Oh, this is something that sold right before the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. One more thing has to sell to make it true. Make 3 times in a podcast and it's true. So, all right.
That's the rule.
That is the rule. All right. Favorite podcast. I shouldn't have read that username. That was pretty terrible, but
your attempt.
Yeah. My apologies. I'm sorry. I do have a master's degree, but that doesn't mean anything at all when it comes to reading. All right. I've always subscribed to podcasts, but never end up keeping up. That is true. You ever do that? Like listen to podcasts and you're like,
there's a handful that I don't listen to regularly, but then I have the ones I listen to every single week.
I always love it when I get comments from listeners who are like, hey, you guys are still on the air? Like, somebody the other day goes, I may have a hustle a week if you guys still do that. I'm like, I can see you haven't listened in a while. It's all good. We're just grateful when you do. Said, until I came across Pure Hustle, I love that you guys talk about a variety of things in the reselling industry. Keep it up and thanks for everything.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. Seriously, keeps us motivated. So if you could ever help us out with a review, that would always appreciate. And by the way, thank you to all you guys that have been buying stuff through our affiliate links on our Linktree and our Instagram or our YouTube or whatever. Like people are like, we want to help you out. What is that light box you use? And we're like, oh yeah, it's in the Amazon and the Amazon link and they go and they buy it. So it really helps us out. Again, it's not much, but every cent counts.
That's right.
So, all right, it is time for our...
Come on, hustlers. It's the freaking hustle of the week.
All right, this is where we take listener hustles of the week and we share them on air. So,
yeah. You ready for the first one?
I am.
You ready for this hustle, which is pretty amazing, actually. So Daniel, IG handle at resale520, sourced on the next day, the next door app for free items. This is a good way to get started, right? If you're maybe not sure you want to invest capital yet, or you're just like, or even if you've been doing this a long time, you could still get some great sales or great items for free. So came across 3 bikes from a family that was just looking to make space in their garage. Due to COVID, had the bikes delivered to his house. Man,
delivered.
That's genius. Oh, you're going to give me that? Please bring it to me. All right. Like that's pretty amazing. Usually it works the other way. They're like, if you want this, you're coming and getting it. I'm not helping you load it. Right. But they delivered it to his house. He pumped up the tires, sprayed down the bikes, and sold all 3 for a total of $140 on Facebook Marketplace and reinvested to list first item on eBay. Welcome to the reselling addiction, Daniel. It's going to just get crazier and crazier and more amazing from here. But that's the way to do it, right? If you can start from free, like sometimes I feel like proud of myself because it's like, yeah, I started with like, $50 in my wallet to take to a garage sale, thinking like I'm really balling, right? Like I'm bringing a lot of money to some garage sales. To now that seems like nothing, but if you can start from free and make it, man, that's amazing. So great job, Daniel.
Great job on the Nextdoor app.
Yeah,
like that. There's some good stuff out there. Did I share that story about the guy that wasn't fully closed that gave me baseball gear? on the Nextdoor app. Be careful for those people out there.
Yeah, you do got to be careful.
I'll share that story I'm pretty sure I shared that story. Anyways, maybe off air I shared it to you. I don't know. But anyways, that's takeaway from Daniel Resale 520 and his awesome hustle of the week with the 3 bikes. Great job. And by the way, he sold it on Facebook Marketplace. Now, was that intentional? Like, would there have been drama if he went on the Nextdoor app and resold them on the Nextdoor app?
Yeah, because I feel like there's more of like people blackball people on Nextdoor.
Oh, dude, Nextdoor is like, it's drama, man. I just for entertainment, you can read it.
Yeah, sometimes you read and you're like, to the person whose dogs are barking next door, and they leave this long comment, and then you see people comment onto them like, how about you stop being so, judgmental and you don't know what's going on in their life. And then somebody else comments back and like, how dare you? And it's just like, whoa, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
Like people are intense.
It's the land of Karens. Is that okay? Did I just lose some listeners?
It might be offensive.
Was it? Okay, sorry. All right. Next one, Chad, IG handle, the infinity. Okay, I don't want to mess up. I'm just gonna spell this out because I feel bad whenever I end up ruining people's Instagram names. So they are. I'm almost there. Okay. The Infinity Isle. The Infinity Isle. So Chad and his, I'm gonna say wife, but maybe I'm hoping it's wife or girlfriend, but I think it's wife. So my apologies for that. It doesn't say much on there, but he's also a fellow teacher.
Nice.
So I always love hearing from these. And so has a side hustle of reselling, and they went to the store that shall not be named. And as a result of the Last Dance documentary that dropped on ESPN about Michael Jordan and so on, said that they decided to pick up this book called The Jordan Rules Book for $2.49. And they flipped it in 3 days on eBay for $54.
Yeah, that's a good sale.
But I thought we'd make this a combo hustle of the week because the next one's even more legit. So, not that that one wasn't good. Found a certain board game for $3, all complete at a garage sale. Finally sold a complete. It was Dark Tower for $325 plus shipping.
Nice. Jelly. One day I'll find one, or I won't. I don't know.
I don't even like. I've never seen one in real life.
Yeah. I'll tell you now that it's over. I should have mentioned it ahead of time. I didn't buy it until like there was only a couple hours left, and it would have been hard to explain and convince you to do this. But Kickstarter.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
Kickstarter. Occasionally I look for games, and you can invest on Kickstarter and get some cool games. And I talked about the reason I'm bringing it up is because Dark Tower is potentially going to be doing a remake through Kickstarter. But a lot of times you can find games that are like Kickstarter exclusives. You can get them at a really good deal. And then after they've been out, if you did your research and you know what's going on in the market and what people are interested in, you can sometimes double, triple your money because, there's a lot of hype for it and it's hard to get unless you were on the Kickstarter before it closed. But the problem is, and the reason that kind of holds me back sometimes is like, okay, I could buy this game for $50. I could probably sell it for $150 once I get it. But sometimes you don't get it for like a year to a year and a half, right? Like it's a long time a lot of times before the time you pay, before you actually get the item in your hand. So it's like, oh, I could use that money and I could turn it into $150 a lot easier before then, right? But there was and I don't even know how they did it. There was a company that was making miniatures, and typically for like a high quality miniature, like for Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, you're looking at anywhere from like $5 to $20, right? Depending on the type of miniature, the size, all of that. But you're probably averaging at least $10 for a good miniature, $8 to $10. They sold, and based off all of their Kickstarter exclusives and all of their unlocks, I think I paid like $100 for like one of the top end things you could buy, and it's like 500 miniatures.
Nice,
all high quality. And I think I'm going to be able to sell this for like probably at least $700 to $800 once it comes to me, which should be in December. So I'm kind of stoked about that.
Thanks. It's okay. I didn't tell you about the RA opportunity that I forgot to tell you about. Oh, maybe I did. Did I send you about a certain board game that is dropping at a certain time?
No, you hurt my feelings, man.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk off air after. So I don't know. We're good. We're good. Okay. That was actually my fault. Anyways, here's the thing. I will say I feel guilty ever since I had you buy those dolls. Like, cause I still made profit. I mean, I still made like $500 to $1,000, but it wasn't everything I told you it'd be.
No, it was a big flop, but it was a lot of fun watching my wife like ninja around in a store, going out different exits with them because she wanted to go to different cashiers because they had limits. It was a good time. I'll always.
It was a good time. We got in too late. Like the year before, I made a killing, and that's how it goes. I still feel bad about it because I felt like that left you a bad taste in your mouth with Amazon and RA.
Yeah, well, what can you do?
So, all right. Anyways, hey, thank you so much, Chad, the Infinity Isle, for sharing that with us. All right.
Our next one comes from Joe, Instagram handle at the Charm City, or not the, but at Charm City Picker.
It's a repeat. He was the guy that sold like that, I think a sonography machine back in the day for a lot of money.
Nice. So picked up a vintage Sony Walkman Professional WM-D6 for $3.18 at a thrift store. It's very specific. Looks like you even included like tax on that. That's great. Working one sell for $400 to $500. So he bought a replacement belt, hoping to fix it, but was not able to fix it, but still was able to sell it for $200 from $3.18 to $200. That's pretty darn good.
That's good. I mean, and it scares me now because I used to pass up Walkmans all the time if like they didn't have headphones with them, or now I pick them up. Like I'll pick up old headphones in case I can match them up with another old one that I find somewhere else, right? But yeah, that was pretty good, Charm City Picker. Because when he found that sonography machine, that was like something at a estate sale. I'm like, how'd you find this? He's like, oh, I just went to a thrift store. That's $3.18. So there you go, man. I can't think of the last time I sold a pair of Walkmans for $55, but I haven't sold a nice pair of Sony in a while. So, all right, it's time for our hustle of the week. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So. He's probably listening, but I feel really bad about this. So remember our reselling friend that got our reselling?
Yep.
Remember all that stuff I bought? So one of the items I did pay for was a Nintendo system. Now, this Nintendo system I paid $50 for, and it was complete. It had, a console, it had the 2 controllers, it had the game, it had Duck Hunt, it had Mario Brothers. It even had the Nintendo Power posters inside, it had the manual. Like it was all there. Now, the posters like had a couple like little tears in it, and there's a couple things here. So what I did is I picked this up. I asked him like, are you willing to sell it? And he's like, all right, yeah, I'll take $50. I'm like, all right. And I don't know. He played with it and everything. I don't know why he didn't list it because, but I get it because it was pretty labor intensive. So what I had to do with this Nintendo is like, I took everything out the box. I had to set it all up really nice. And I did a good job, I think, on my picture in my light box. Took a picture of it. Then I had to take pictures of it individually. And then I wanted to share any kind of wear that was on it. So then I had to shoot a video on my iPhone to post on YouTube. And then you use a tool, flippertools.com, which you put the YouTube web address, and then it creates an HTML that you can put on your listing, which creates a thumbnail that people can click on. And so now, not only do I have the pictures, but I have video of every angle of that Nintendo, including the posters, the guns, the controllers, and they see everything. Right? So, that whole process was probably an hour, right? From getting it home to putting it apart. I didn't have to test it because I already knew it worked, because he said himself, like, yeah, I played on this for a little while. And actually, there was staining on the console, but I was able to get, that highly wanted Clorox wipe that I can't find anywhere. Can you find any of those anywhere still?
I have enough of them that I haven't looked.
Oh, that's right. I remember when you had those. I should have bought some off of you. Every time I go to Costco, they're like, oh, there were some this morning. Then you show up in the morning, you're stuck in a line. And so I don't know. Anyways, but those work really well, and they don't damage most items. So I cleaned it up, and I cleaned up the console, and it looked like it was bought in 88 or whatever it was. So took the pictures, and then I had it listed. I kept getting low offer after low. I was always like, so I listed it for $300. I kept getting low offers. I'd get 100, I get 50. I get people going like, oh, it looks like it's being used. Well, yeah, it's being used, but it's complete. Like everything's here. I knew I was going to go to a collector, and then finally somebody just bought it full price. Now it was on sale. And so they paid $254 plus shipping, but it was within California. So shipping cost me like $17, and they paid like $30. So I still made money on the shipping. So yeah, not bad. Made about $200. Was it $200? Pretty close. I mean, if you cost of goods and shipping, all right, so like $170 net profit. So I'll take that. So that is my hustle of the week. It was kind of hard to let go because it's a really complete system. If it was a full Super Nintendo or N64, I like those better. I think I would have struggled with those. So, anyways, not a bolo. Most people know that, but you got to put in that work.
Yeah, you got to put in the work. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Okay, so mine goes back to an old story where I stopped at a garage sale. It was the last garage sale of the day. And I've already talked about the case that I sold from this, but this is now the completed story. It's come all the way.
I remember kind of some of this.
So I'm at a garage sale and I don't really see anything I like. And then I see this like old school camera, like one that like you'd have to put on your shoulder and like look through a thing. And it had cables. Like there was no even screen for it. Like you had to like put cables that would connect into the monitor that it was like attached to. And so this super old school camera. And so I looked at the model, I look at the lens that's attached to it, and I'm like, I don't really know anything about this one. And I forgot my phone in the car. So I'm like, I'm gonna go back to the car. I'm only gonna go buy this if it's worth a lot of money. Go back to my car, I type in, the camera itself didn't seem like it was selling for tons, but the lens looked like some lenses were selling for like $50, $60. I was like, I might as well go ask them for what they want for this, right? So I go and I asked them, and they were like $5. And I wasn't even at that point, I was still early enough that I wasn't even going to negotiate anymore. I was happy enough with that. I was like, sweet, $5. And they're like, and so I started to like pack it up, and he goes, oh no, but that doesn't include the case. And I was like, what? Like, this is weird, right? And he's like, yeah, that's not the case. That's not like the camera case. It's just a case we've used to keep it in. It had like all this red padding inside, and it looked like it was like a camera case. And I was like, all right, well, how much for the case? They're like $10 for everything. And I was done. I was just ready to go home. And I was like, fine, here's $10. I took the case. I didn't want to like take this out and try and find a way to put it in my car. So anyways, I get home and my wife is helping me like take pictures and list stuff. And we realized this is a Samsonite suitcase. This isn't like the camera case. So we sold this Samsonite suitcase for, I can't remember the exact price, but I think it was close to 100. It might've been like $80 plus shipping, something like that. But already it was like, man, that was a good deal. Like, I'm glad I picked up this case for $5. Just sold the camera a couple of days ago. Camera with the lens. Originally, I was gonna like sell the lens separately, and then I didn't know what I was gonna do with the camera. Then maybe I was gonna try and sell it. I don't know what my plan was, but I was like, I'm just gonna do it and list high. And it sold for full price, $189 for the camera and the lens. And the nice thing is, all of the like foam padding, this like red velvet covered foam padding that was in the case originally. We sold the case, but we still had all that padding that kind of fit around the camera. We just use that as the package material.
Saved
right?
you time.
Boom. It was like both items sold for significantly more than I was expecting to get from them. And I'm kind of thinking like, because even in the listing, it says, I'll show Orlando, it says in the listing, not tested, right? Like, we have no idea whether this thing works, because I originally said like you could look through a thing that was not correct. There's nothing to look through. You have to like connect the cables to like some monitor. It's like an old school, like what maybe newsmen would use or something back in the day. And so I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have the equipment to test it, and it still sold. And where I'm thinking it sold to a business, and the name of the business, because they originally asked like, can you actually ship it? The address on eBay is not where we want it. We want it to go here. And I think they sent it to like Tennessee or something. And the name of the business sounded like a production company. And I think it's going to be used as like a prop in a movie or something like that. Like that's what it seems like. So it's kind of cool, like to think like, man, like this might now be in a movie or something as like a prop, or who knows what it's going to be used for. I doubt like a production company would be buying this to use for like actual use, right? Because, it's an old school camera it's not that great. And who knows whether it even works, but I can imagine maybe it's being used in a movie. So kind of sweet that I made the money, and in my mind, I can make a cool story about what it's going to be used for.
There you go. Now, did you just ended up shipping it to the different address? Did you have to cancel and have them like change the address and buy again?
No, I shipped it to the address they told me to ship it to.
Ooh, okay. Just be careful. You shouldn't do that, but I'm glad it worked out.
But I mean, I've got the message in eBay, right?
Yeah. So this is the latest thing I've now. So the latest thing now is messages. It doesn't matter if it's in the messages, because it's like some representatives, and I've gotten DMs about this, have said it's great that it's in the messages, but if it's not written in policy, it's not really policy. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of, but I get the rationale. If it's in the messages, why would eBay ding you against it? So I don't know. but I'm glad it worked out, dude. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about that. I mean, maybe
No, you're fine.
but in another situation, I think I'd probably do the same. Like if there was a time like my business name was on my eBay, and I bought something for personal, and the place that takes my mail is really, really picky about that. And because we just have it as our name, like one thing came one time with our business name on it, and they're like, we can't give this to you unless you give us your business license, and you have to sign up for a different. And I'm like, whoa, no, like this is a personal thing. Like obviously it's got my last name in the business name, like this is us, it's to us, right? Like, and they made a big deal about it. So I did that one time. I bought something, I forgot to change the name, and so I just sent them a message like, hey, can you actually just change the name from the business name to my name? And I gave my name, and they're like, sure, no problem. And so I would imagine if somebody's asking for something like that, they're not going to complain. So, but if it's against policy, so do the right thing.
You got scammers, and you got drop shippers are notorious, but drop shippers need to sell that stuff, so they're willing to cancel and repurchase if they need to. So, God bless drop shippers. All right, but nice. No, I saw that sale, and I'm like, it made me think again of. I'm looking at all my good sales lately. They've all been garage sales. I can't wait till we can go to garage sales. But there are none. There's like 12 in our area. Yeah. But even then, they're garbage. Yeah. Like you've gone out, I've gone out. Not worth our time.
One day.
So hopefully there's no summer slowdown of garage sales. All right.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what should we do to avoid the impact of summer slowdown?
All right. So this is a given, but diversify your inventory and diversify your platform. And what I mean is, we've already talked about diversifying inventory, but platform. So if you're just straight up an eBay seller, use cross-posting software, right? Or, go on Mercari, go on Poshmark, because you may have different kinds of buyers that are looking for certain items that aren't exposed. Because like you said, was it this podcast that you talked about? Yeah, no, it was the other podcast, our update podcast, where there's different demographics shopping on different platforms, right? So maybe it's time to experiment with Depop. Maybe it's time to experiment with, Mercari or Poshmark, right? And there's great stuff out there to help you do that. There's Sawhound, there's List Perfectly, there's Vendu, all these different options that allow you to do that. So maybe it's a time to learn a little bit, like Mike has said, but understand that like people are looking for different things. And for myself, I'm a big Amazon guy in the summer because Amazon is what carries me through the summer. And so even though I've had this big, all I did is eBay for like 3 months and I didn't touch Amazon, I've been dabbling in retail arbitrage, and it's been Amazon the last 2 summers that has carried me and allowed me to have great summers. Because I remember last year before we went to eBay Open, like I said, all that stuff that sold on from Office Depot and all that stuff that sold through Shopko, I sold via Amazon. None of that stuff did I put on eBay. None of it. And I sold it all through Amazon. And then the year before, it was Toys R Us liquidation. This year, we'll see what happens. But I like having the options, because when eBay's slow, Poshmark might be doing well, Mercari might be doing well, Depop, whatever you want to name it. That's what I mean by diversify there.
Yeah, that's good. And maybe I'm a really big on like finding, even if I don't follow it always to the T and like actually keep track of minutes and all that stuff, I like having like set ideas and goals. And one thing you could do is say like, hey, I want to find what works, right? And so if selling used shoes is like your thing, spend 95% of your time or 90% of your time doing that. Because if that's paying your bills, like you can't all of a sudden stop selling shoes, right? But maybe spend 5 to 10% of your time and say, okay, like once a week or twice a month or something, I'm gonna branch out. I'm gonna try a different platform. I'm gonna spend maybe an afternoon looking for a different product. And 1, it's gonna give you knowledge, and 2, it's gonna allow you to start building, a diversified, portfolio, as it were, of your own inventory and the assets that you have that you can sell. So that way, maybe if that market or that industry goes down, or competition goes up, or any number of things that could potentially happen, you're prepared and you've got other options and opportunities. So diversifying is good. Now, I don't suggest going like dabbling in everything and not actually having focus in anything. And I say that, and when I say that, I mean, I'm kind of a garage sale store. So I do that in a sense, but what I don't do is I don't try and spend a bunch of time on jewelry and a bunch of time on electronics and a bunch of like, I'm not trying to be in every single niche, right? Like there's probably like 5 or 6 niches that like I'm pretty solidly in. And then I kind of dabble in a couple of others, which I think is probably a good place to be. If you're trying to dabble in everything, but you don't have anything kind of solid that's like a consistent for you, you're going to be in trouble too. So diversify, but don't over diversify.
No, agreed. I mean, yeah, you can be a master of none. That can happen. Now, the next thing is use selling tools. Now, a lot of this you have to have a store to be able to do, okay? An eBay store. And we're talking about eBay primarily, but there's some stuff out there that is really good. I've always been a fan. Like if you have more than 25 or 50 items, like you should have an eBay store. I think you make your money back. It's totally worth your time. eBay gives us no commission on that. It'd be nice though, eBay, but they don't. So the very first thing is if you go to the research tab in Seller Hub and then you go to the left, there's a thing called sourcing guidance. And when you go to that sourcing guidance, it gives you a bunch of options. So you can pick categories, you can pick baby, you can pick clothing, you can pick electronics. I mean, they're all there. And then once you get to that location, sorry, I need to get back on the mic. Once you get to that location, then you can do a bunch of research and it'll tell you like, hey, here's this item. Here's exactly when things sell. Here's a peek of when things sell. So it's very simple. So again, you're going to go to your Seller Hub. When you go to your Seller Hub, there's going to be tabs at the top. And one of those tabs that you click on is called Research. Then after you click on the Research tab, on the left side, it's Sourcing Guidance. And it'll take you to a bunch of items. So right now I'm doing it. And I know a lot of you want us to do screen share, but it's pretty simple. It's pretty explanatory. So let's say right now I'm going to go to clothing and I'm going to pick men and I'm going to pick men's shoes and I'm going to pick boots because I love selling boots. And when I go and I pick that, it's going to take a little bit to load. And once it's done loading, it's going to show me kind of a graph that tells me, okay, what is the seasonality of things selling? And it tells me, right, okay, number one, the best items right now, the top opportunities are in hiking and trail, and then work and safety, and then ankle boots, right? So there's that. But then it'll take you to, you can click on brand. And then what are some brands right now that are hot? Red Wing Shoes, Keen, Merrill, Danner, Ariat, Harley, which I always pass on those. So maybe I need to pick those up, right? Harley Davidson, Allen Edmonds, basically all the brands we talk about on the show.
And it shows you even like when they're selling and, you know, like you said, with seasonality, and you could see June and July and August are not the best months for boots. So again, that can help you say like, what can you find an item where instead of seeing like an upside down bell, which, you know, if you think of like January to December, the upside down bell, the low point, the valley would be in the summer months. Maybe find one that looks like a traditional bell curve where the peak is closer to the summer. So yeah, you got to do that research. You got to find those right niches.
So obviously I wouldn't pick up boots right now, right? I would
pick them up.
I'd pick them up still because there's profit and I'm willing to do the long-term game. But if you're trying to sell stuff to make you money right now, probably not the best option. But if I go to sandals, right? Obviously it's summer, but if you take a look, it's a whole different graph. Yep. I mean, it's just climbing, right? And it differs between you and you. So if you're able to do retail arbitrage, you know, you go on this, what are the top brands you pick up? Oakley's number one, Nike, Rainbow, Supreme, Kambu, Keen, Olukai, Adidas, Under Armour, and Jordan, right? But if you go to used, it switches up a little bit. Then it goes to Chaco, Keen, Birkenstock, which I share all the time, Nike, Crocs, Teva, Olukai, Reef, Gucci, and Adidas. But again, this is a way if you're like, you know, Mike and Orlando, I'm really stuck. Like I go to my thrift store, I've been sourcing, I've been researching, I'm looking at comps, but this is not selling. Because maybe you're picking up boots, which is awesome and they're profitable, but they're no way going to sell as much as sandals are selling at the moment. So again, go to Seller Hub, go to the research tab, go to the left where it says seller guidance, and then I'll give you an opportunity to choose whatever category, and it'll tell you, let me real quick, it'll tell you the top opportunities, like the styles. It'll tell you the top brands. It'll tell you what they are as far as used and new. It'll also give you a price breakdown, like, okay, generally these items are selling for $20 to $100, or they're selling for $100 to $200 or whatever it is, but it's great data. And I think, you know, I always share this, like on eBay, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. Right. The only reason I know this is because others in the reselling community have shared it.
Yep.
Right. It's not like Orlando like went through the whole Seller Hub site. All right. Also, sales. You have the ability to put sales. So maybe you got to put higher sales. You got to put, I always have 15%, but maybe it's time to do the 18. Maybe it's 20%. I know some people that go 50% just to like clean out inventory, right? Just to get a fresh start. You could also do promoted listings. Are you doing a lot of promoted listings these days?
Yeah, my number is actually significantly lower than it used to be, and I still have success with that. But I think everybody's got to find the right number for them. Everybody, depending on what you're selling, how many items you have in your store, what types of items you're selling, all of those things are going to play an impact. But yeah, so maybe you are successful at 2% promoted listings, where another market you might have to be at 4%, right? So you got to find what works for you. And yeah, I definitely have a lot of success with promoted listings. The nice thing is, I get a lot of sales that are promoted listing. And so it's like when you get that, it's almost like a miniature punch in the gut of like, oh, I got to pay a little more. But it's like, who knows whether this would have sold without that. And so enough of my stuff still sell without promoted listings that it's not like an additional tax. But it does help you see like, okay, this is working to an extent here.
Yeah. And the next thing is, and again, before we move on, promoted listings, you got to be careful. There was a time, it's funny, Sell Quick, Ship Quick knows about this, that 1 month I was like, I made all these sales. And then I looked and I didn't make a lot of money. Promoted sales, I had some stuff that was like at 8%. I had some that was like at 10% because I made a choice at one time to make everything 1% above the trending. That was just not the right call. Now I have everything in my store at 2% and it's good and it still works. Okay, let's talk about send offer. So the reason I bring this up is I see people post their 90-day totals on Instagram and they're like, it says 150 send offers available. I'm like, what? Like you're leaving money on, that's money on the table you're leaving. Yeah. And I'm not saying like you're going to get a lot of sales, but I pretty much like for every 20 send offers, I at least one sale conversion.
Yeah, they convert, frequently enough that it's worth it, right? So I would say if you're not using send offer, you're definitely putting money on the table or leaving money on the table. But again, maybe it comes down to a place where if you've got enough, maybe you have enough velocity that it's not worth it for you. So it might depend on your model that spending the time of going through, looking at an item. But if you always got to balance, you have more time or do you have more, inventory? Do you have more time or do you have more, whatever it is going on? And so, yeah, if you've got the option to send offers, I would definitely send offers and make them reasonable enough that it's going to hook the attention. Maybe that's part of it too. Like some people are going to be more successful than others. Maybe you give your bottom dollar, like here's the lowest I would accept that I'd be kind of happy with. Like if somebody sent me this offer, I would be like, all right, I'll take it. Maybe that's what you send and you convert more. Or maybe you say, I'm going to send a little bit higher than that. So there's a little bit of wiggle room for negotiation. It's just going to depend on, your model and what's going on. But I definitely convert a lot of sales through send offer.
No, that's a great point. And I want to share what I do. What I end up doing is when I list stuff, I sell it at the price I want when there's a 15% discount. So I'll list, let's say, I want something to actually sell for $85. I'll list it at $100. Then I'll put it on sale at 15% off and it knocks it down to $85. So then when I send the offer, which is usually, if it's something under $100, I'll usually just take $5 off. People are getting a deal. And then if they counter offer, they're thinking they're getting an even bigger deal. So it works out. Now, I don't think I'm in the end all because I think I am, I don't sell fast enough. Like I know some people that are willing to do the 50% off on the send offers and they convert like crazy. So you just got to find the model that works for you. So, all right. And the last,
I feel like we say that more than anything else. You got to find the model that works for you.
Well, because this, I will tell you of all the, it's like, it's kind of like teaching where like teaching, like, there is no one way to do things well, right? I mean, there's definitely a lot of ways to do things wrong.
Well, there's my way and then there's the wrong way.
Yeah, my way. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I get that. But it's, but how many times do we get put through the fire like on media, on social media all the time? Like, I don't know why, but like I'll post something and somebody says, actually, it's better if you do it this way. I'm like, bro, like I wasn't like telling you this is the ultimate way, right? But maybe I'm just a little sensitive.
Or maybe you're reading into the tone. Maybe the tone isn't like, it's better if you do it this way. Maybe it's like, hey, Orlando, you can significantly improve your level of living if you were to, maybe that's what they're saying.
The other day. So I'm not saying get your bubble wrap at Walmart, right? But I posted something like, if it's last second and you need bubble wrap, be careful it's at Walmart. And I showed how at Walmart, like you can get more bubble wrap for the same price. because they have like the 200 and the 150 foot and they charge the same price. You just got to be paying attention. And somebody said, yeah, it's cheaper at Sam's Club. Why? Like that wasn't the point of the post.
Hey, but it's also very helpful.
It was. Well, yeah, I said, thank you. I'm just letting you know, like, anyways, maybe I'm just kind of feeling a little beat up these days. Yeah. So I'm just trying to help.
You're calloused.
I'm just trying to help.
Man.
I'm just trying to help. All right. And the last thing here, okay, what you should do. And Mike has touched on this. So,
oops.
No, it's fine, but it's good. I mean, it's an ongoing theme. Like, listen, Q4 is right around the corner. Like, before you know it, we're going to be in September and we're going to be talking about, like, I hope I have all my inventory ready to go. I hope I have shipments ready to go into FBA. Like, I hope I have everything organized, because summer is definitely the time, if things do slow down for you, to get your inventory organized, to get your books in order. Because, man, once that Q4 hits and things are flying, like, you don't want to stop to have to take care of that stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like we should say something like, summer slowdown is done and the chaos begins. Something, something, something. It's Q4 again.
Yeah, there's a song out there. You should check it on YouTube. It's on the Pure Podcast, Q4 rap.
Q4 rap.
But anyways, yeah, definitely, prep for Q4, because you don't want to be stuck scrambling. I'm telling you, one of the best decisions I made 2 years ago was I didn't do it myself. I paid somebody to reorganize all my inventory and got custom SKU labels. And man, when Q4 hit, it was so nice to be able to find stuff within 30 seconds. It was beautiful. And to this day, it's still like that. So, you know what makes me kind of sad now? Two things. One, we're coming to the end of the podcast. And two, I didn't get my eBay sale to prove it. So
we're not going to drag this episode out just so that Orlando can try and prove that he's going to get another sale.
Wow, it's just going to happen right after we end the podcast.
Yeah.
So anyways,
of course it will.
Hopefully that helped you. Hopefully, you're able to reflect on your own. Is summer slowdown a myth? And are there things to make it that is not a myth? Well, no, that it is a myth. Right?
Sure.
Okay. Anyways, with that being said, hey, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Late.